thinking about the death of the child is unbearable to even think about, let alone to experience. And it tears up the rule book of life. You should never have to bury your child. As many families have said to me, I would never have dreamt I would ever have to choose a coffin for my own child and go to the funeral of my own child. It's just beyond kind of comprehension as an experience. And so when you've torn up what you normally would predict in life, that your child would bury you, what dies with that often, or gets broken with that, is your innate trust in life. Like if something out of the blue, whether it was a diagnosis and the child finally eventually died, or it was a sudden death, your trust in life going forward and the picture that you expected from life dies with the child. And you, as a mother and father, are kind of thrown into this alien world where there's no map. You don't know where you're going. You don't really know who you are or what you believe in. And you can't imagine how you're going to live your life and imagine your future without your child. Because the moment your child was conceived, you kind of dreamed of the life that you were going to have. Mm-hmm. And so when I talk about the death of the child, I mean it in the most kind of inclusive sense, that this could be a miscarriage, it could be a stillbirth, it could be a neonatal death, and it could be the child of any age. And the death of a child, whether it's an adult child, is always the death of your child. So, I mean, I think often people kind of limit it by certain things, and I don't. I mean it in the broadest of senses.
Can you say a little bit about how the death of a child impacts our sense of self and who we are?
I mean, it's very, like with all of these things, it's very unique. I think one of the words that I hear most common is that it feels like a fathomless hole in myself, like who I was has been kind of blown apart. And it shifts your identity. You're always a parent, but it's how you negotiate your sense of self as a parent to a child that's died, and also to a parent, maybe to other children. And so it's finding, as I said, trust in life, but purpose and meaning in life when you no longer have that child to care for and to see them progress through life feels fragmenting as your sense of self. And certainly from my experience, it takes the longest to begin to rebuild your life and find a way of daring to trust and live and love again. It's a long process.
So it's a sort of, you lose a sense of who you are, a sense of purpose, and also the wish for future for yourself and that child. Could you say a little bit about how the death of a child can impact a marriage and also the wider family structure?
So the death of a child, it affects so many people, the aunts and uncles, the close friends, of course, the parents, the couple, the mother and father, whether they're together or they're separated, and the grandparents. And in that family structure, often the grandparental role is very important, and it can be pivotal as the grandparent, one kind of step away to support the family when the parents are so significantly bereaved. But also it's complicated because the child of the grandparent will look at their parent, and their child is still alive, and it may create envy that you still have a live child. You've had me for 40 years or 50 years, and my 8-year-old died. So it can create all sorts of complexities and difficulties within the family unit. Within the first year in a family, a couple is 70% more likely to need psychiatric care. So it's the most psychiatrically harming, if you like. It takes a lot of resilience and robustness to weather the death of a child. And some of the research also showed that when because it's so unbearable, some people tend not to want to face it. And they may look the same as other couples for the first few years of life. But then later in life, the process that they haven't grieved can come and hit them, and they can have, severe psychological disorders. So it's potentially, I think the message I'm saying is that I think grieving the death of a child is too difficult to manage on your own. I think you really need professional support. And I would always encourage people to get professional support, because it is so complicated and so painful.